Don't miss the inaugural All-American Cup Team Tennis Tournament, presented by Thomas J. Henry, at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas, November 11th through 13th. The All-American Cup features 10 top men's U.S. players competing on 2 teams, East versus West, each captained by the greatest tennis doubles team of all time, Mike and Bob Bryan. You don't want to miss this. Brother versus brother, East versus West, best versus best. Tickets on sale now at allamericantenniscup.com.
This is the cruelest round of the Texas high school football playoffs because if you win this game and you go to the state championship and you don't score any points, if someone drops a 70 burger on you, if it's 70-0, it doesn't really matter because what happens, your name still goes down in the history books. We talk about it all the time. Of the Carthage-Gilmer game from 2 years ago is the perfect example. Carthage goes out there and beats Gilmer 70-14. Guess what? I can still tell you that they played Gilmer in that game. Mm-hmm. If you asked me who Carthage beat in the state semifinal,
You're not going to remember.
Yeah, you have to do some research to think back that hard.
Exactly.
There has to be a reason you're remembering that game.
Right, exactly.
So it's a tough one, but it is also one of the most exciting weeks as we punch 10 more tickets. Remember, the 6-man games have already been decided since they have a smaller playoff bracket. They go ahead, they have their Gray Suite this week, so we already have those 2 matchups set. But we will crown 20 more teams for 10 more games of state championships. But let's go ahead and take a look at the state semifinal matchups in case you are just now hopping into the Texas high school football playoffs. We will start off with 2A Division 1 and 2. 2A. We're going to 2A.
We're going to 2A.
We'll start off 2A Division 1, Hawley versus Crawford. That one's 7 o'clock p.m. on Thursday. And then on the right side of the bracket, coming out of Region 3, it is the Timpson Bears taking on the Refugio Bearcats.
Oh, I love that matchup
so
much. And we'll get into more about that later. But that's one of my favorites. That sparks a lot of interest. There
are a couple. There are 2 for a fact in my brain, and this is one of them, that this could be, this is a state championship caliber matchup.
Yes.
Like, the fact that one of these teams, either of those teams, don't get to play in AT&T Stadium is
kind of heartbreaking.
Because
you know whoever wins this matchup, whoever they're going to play on the other side of the bracket at AT&T Stadium, they're probably going to win pretty comfortably, at least by 1 or 2 scores.
Hawley and Crawford are both really, really good teams, but I would say that you can guarantee that whoever wins Timpson Refugio is going to come in as the favorite.
Yes, absolutely.
2A Division 2, the smallest 11-man classification is I think I said Refugio Bearcats. I meant Refugio Bobcats. We'll talk about the Bearcats a little bit.
A lot of bears and a lot of cats.
Bobcats. 2A Division 2, New Home taking on Albany. A very big kind of surprise there in New Home, taking on Coach Denny Faith, who I believe if he wins this game will solidify he'll solidify his spot as the 4th winningest Texas high school football coach of all time. So 7 p.m. on Thursday tonight. And then another one happening tonight at 7, Mart versus Burton. Step had Burton called. He picked them to win Region 4 down there.
I noticed that. He was the only one because I believe everybody else picked who did we pick?
2A Division 2.
Region.
I should have brought my picks in here. I can't remember.
I know, but
they're all running together.
Nonetheless, congrats to Step. He was the only one that picked Burton out of all of us to make it to to win the regional final round.
Mm-hmm. So there are your 2A state semifinals for both 2A Division 1 and 2A Division 2. Moving on now to 3A. In 3A Division 1, coming out of Region 1, it is the Brock Eagles. After an 0-4 start, they rattled off as many as they can, and here they are again in a state semifinal, taking on the Malakoff Tigers, 7 o'clock p.m. tonight.
Malakoff. That one's tasty.
That one's very tasty. That's a lot of offense there, and Malakoff they proved me wrong. I had taken Grandview in that state semifinal, or in the regional final last week, and it was because I kept saying it's one of those things where I bet on history at that point that it always seems like Grandview just has Malakoff's number. That was the one hurdle that they could not get over. And I said, would it shock me if Malakoff won? No. But am I willing to put pen to paper on it? No. And they did it. They had an unbelievable win over Grandview last week to advance. And then
because who won the matchup in the regular season?
Grandview did.
That's why I was like...
But it was only by 3, I believe. So it was very close in the regular season.
I went with it's hard to beat a good team twice.
Yep.
But it could have gone either way, like we said.
Coming out of Region 3, the one that I think we all were expecting. That was a gauntlet, an absolute gauntlet of a region. But I think we were all expecting to see this, and they have definitely... You can't say that Franklin has not been battle-tested. That's for sure. An unbelievable win last week over Columbus. We were watching that game for a good chunk of it, and it was, truly as spectacular as a matchup as we thought that it would have been. So they are taking on the Cowboys of Edna. In my face. Here I am, publicly admitting I was wrong. I was very wrong.
Thank you for doing that.
For all the Edna...
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, yes. For all the Edna folks that have let me absolutely hear it all week. This is me owning up to it and saying you're right. Edna took on Llano last week. We were at the game down in San Marcos, and this Edna team is no one to look over.
They're huge.
They are. That was the thing.
Huge up front.
That was the thing that was the most fun to watch, is how powerful that they were on their lines on both sides. And that's a matchup that I'll talk about it a little bit later. But the Franklin running attack with Bryson Washington up against the defensive line for Edna is incredibly enticing.
Yes.
But I'm also, that Edna offensive line is legit, and I'm excited to watch them go up against a really good Franklin defense too. So that one should be very exciting. But there you go, Edna. You can post this on your Instagram page.
Your Barstool account.
On your Barstool account. Owning up to that. Congratulations to the Cowboys, but a big, big, big test tonight against Franklin. 3A Division 2, it is a tale as old as time, as Canadian and Gunner Volume 6. They played 6 times in the last 7 years. We're so used to seeing this one. This one, 6 o'clock p.m. on Friday, so kicking off a little bit before some of the other matchups, but incredibly excited, of course, to see that. And then coming out of Region 3, Harmony! How about that? I said it earlier on TFT, but if your team name gets sent in all caps with a bunch of Y's at the end in our Slack chat in the regional final, it means that you're putting the state on notice. Like, I can't remember who it was, but someone sent Harmony!
I think it was
Step or Tepper, sure I think, because we got to laughing, and it was like, yeah, this is a team that has shocked the state, man, and they are looking to do it again as they take on the winners of Region 4 in the Poth Pirates, 7 o'clock p.m. on Friday. I will talk more later about this one. I am interested in this one.
Yes, and I feel like there's 2 Cinderella teams still left, and Harmony is one of them.
Yes, New Home would probably be the other one. Yeah, in 2A Division 2.
Harmony is certainly could be considered a Cinderella team there.
Moving on to 4A, Class 4A, coming out of Region 1 under first-year head coach, not his first time ever coaching, but first year at Decatur. It is Decatur and China Spring, the reigning state champ, China Spring. 7:30 p.m. on Friday. I will be in attendance at that game in Mansfield, so if you're there, say hi. I'm excited. And then, coming out of Region 3, it is Coach Reardon's Chapel Hill Bulldogs taking on the Bernie Greyhounds. So
this one's really good,
a
too.
battle of mutts.
Yeah. I'm excited, and I'll talk more about this later, but I'm excited for that Chapel Hill offensive line against that Bernie defensive line, too.
Yes.
I am curious about that. We'll talk more about that later, but that's kind of piquing my interest right now.
Yeah, ish. So when we were down in San Antonio on last Friday, you and I were at the Conference USA Championship between North Texas and UTSA, but Ish did not go there. We dropped him off at Alamo Stadium, and he saw Bernie play Kyle Allen. We ended up watching a good portion of that game on NFHS, and they're legit. I mean, they can score points. That speed is legit. This is a very, very interesting matchup. So excited to watch that one go down. I believe that's being played at the Alamo Dome.
Yes.
4A Division 2. How about that? Another one that Glenrose should have been on your radar.
Right. You know who I think Tepper did pick them.
They did. He did.
He picked them.
And I think that Glen Rose is more one of those teams that if you pay attention to Texas high school football across the state in a pretty good fashion for 16 weeks, this is not surprising. I think if you're one of the folks that are hopefully listening to this show that are like, oh, it's the semifinals, let's see what they've got going on,
right.
Glen Rose would be one of the surprise because
yes.
they're going up against the team that is a household name that anyone in the state, whether you're tuning in for just the state semifinal show or not, in the Carthage Bulldogs, obviously trying to chase another title there for head coach Scott Surratt. That one happening at the Star, 7 p.m. on Friday. Then rounding it out after an unbelievable regional final in Region 3, Cuero in triple overtime takes down your beloved Silsbee Tigers.
Yeah, I picked them to win state, but looks like that's not happening anymore. But
what
they had a good
year,
run.
I was going to say, what a year for Draylon Miller. What a year for Silsbee. That one was absolutely a coin flip game. I think all of us, except Tepper, had Cuero winning the region, but the rest of us had Silsbee, and he admitted, he was like, man, I didn't know. That was a coin flip. We thought it was going to be those two teams, but it lived up to the expectation. 3 overtimes. I mean, it was so, you know what was so chef's kiss about that? Is that it was the game that kicked off at 1:30.
Yes. So we could.
Everyone in the state was watching it. It was the only game happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Draylon Miller is only a junior, too.
Yeah.
So watch out for Silsbee
so
next year because they might be coming back, and they're probably hungry for a title.
And then the winners of Region 4. I know I picked them. I think you did as well. Wimberley, the Texans. How good have they been looking? This is a fun offensive matchup. This is a fun defensive matchup. These are two very well-rounded teams. And again, playing the only really early game on a Friday. So this one a little bit later than Cuero's 1:30 game last week, but 3:00 p.m. Make sure to tune in and watch that one. Moving on. Now, if you're a big school snob, here we go. Let's go to 5A. We mentioned it earlier that there were a couple of different matchups that it's unfair that this is a state semifinal and not a state championship.
This is the other one.
Yes. Coming out of Region 1, it's the team with the most state championships in Texas high school football history in Tim Buchanan's Aledo Bearcats taking on Coach John King and his Longview Lobos, 2 p.m. on Saturday. This is so stinking fun.
If we didn't have our state work day on Saturday, I bet you we'd all be going to this game.
Absolutely.
I mean, this has got to be the game of the week here.
When realignment came out, and we knew that Aledo was moving up, when you started taking a look at it, Denton Ryan was obviously in the conversation, them being a district foe. Then as the season progressed, it was like, oh, Burleson Centennial. I will say, if you go back and watch Aledo's game last week, they're up 21-0. Centennial comes back, ties it up 21-0, or 21-21.
Yeah, much more competitive. Burleson Centennial was much more competitive in that game last week than they were when they met in the regular season. Much more.
So I think that this one, we'll make our predictions in a little bit and talk more about this one, but that's pinnacle of the games this weekend.
Yeah, definitely.
Coming out of Region 3, the team that we wrote off after Week 1 that just continues to prove everyone wrong.
I didn't write them off.
All right.
I didn't write them off.
Yes, ma'am. College Station.
I picked them.
The Cougars. They will be taking on Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial, and we can all say that not a single one of us, if you look at Region 4 and 5A Division 1, we took PSJA North. Tepper and Ish took Vela, and Step took Miller. There were 4 teams in that region that had a chance to win it, and none of us took Corpus Christi Vets, and an unbelievable win over PSJA North last week.
Fantastic.
They did it again. This will be the last playoff game that's not a state championship game of the 2022 Texas High School football playoffs as they kick off at 5:00 p.m. on Saturday. Moving down into 5A Division 2, a matchup here in the DFW that everyone is stoked about. Argyle taking on South Oak Cliff. You know, it's the household name in Todd Rogers and Argyle taking on the reigning state champs in South Oak Cliff, 7:00 p.m. From the new Crowley Stadium. There should be super, super fun. And then another matchup. This 5A, This 5A Division 2, these two pairings are unbelievable because Port Neches Grove taking on Liberty Hill. This is a spot, obviously, Liberty Hill was in last year. They were able to make it done. This Port Neches Grove's team has looked terrific in the playoffs. They've looked terrific all year, but they've especially looked terrific in the playoffs. That one happening 7 o'clock p.m. on Friday. And finally, the biggest, the largest of the classification, we're talking 6A. 6A Division 1 coming out of Region 1, Prosper. They'll be taking on the reigning runner-ups in the Duncanville Panthers, 4 p.m. on Saturday. And then how about this? A matchup we have seen here before. Galena Park North Shore, the reigning 6A D1 state champs, taking on the reigning 6A D2 state champs in the Austin Westlake Shaps. Of course, not under Todd Dodge anymore, but going for their 4th consecutive state championship win, now under head coach Tony Salazar. That one is just the fireworks factory. If you're looking for fireworks, if you're looking for household name, star power recruits, 3 p.m. Saturday, North Shore Westlake.
That's so good. It's like, do you go with, I don't know. We'll talk more about it later. I don't want to stay too long on it. We'll talk about it later.
6A Division 2, Denton Geyer taking on DeSoto, another Alt-DFW matchup, 2 p.m. on a Saturday, and then it's Coach Gary Joseph and his Katy Tigers taking on the Vipers. Coach Drew Sanders in his postseason State of the Vipers address, 1 p.m. Saturday.
This was another matchup, especially with Austin Vandegrift, that we were kind of split in our regional picks. Like the DCTF crew as a whole, half of us picked Drip, and the other half picked Vandegrift. So that one, I guess, was a toss-up game in general because they had met earlier in the regular season. Drip won that one, right? And then they met again last week, and Vandegrift pulled it out. But that was another one where we were like, it could go either way here.
Oh, yeah. No, I legitimately could have flipped a coin and felt better about flipping a coin than actually picking who I thought was going to win that game.
Yes, exactly.
So there you go. There are the 20 state semifinals happening this weekend. Again, 6-man went through state semifinals last week. They have their state championship matchups set. So 20 games. 20 more playoff games before we hit the best week of the year.